Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're diving straight into a pretty amazing section of the Bible. We're looking at Matthew chapter 12, verses 1 through 21, and the theme is, Something Greater is Here. If you've ever felt completely weighed down by strict religious rules, well, this is absolutely for you. We're going to be talking about ultimate authority, what true rest really means, and the incredibly comforting reality that someone much, much greater is actually here.
Right off the bat, let's look at this central verse, Matthew 12:12. How much more valuable is a person than a sheep? Therefore it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath. This central idea literally flips the script on religious rules right out of the gate. Back in the culture of that time, livestock, especially sheep, were incredibly valuable livelihood assets. They were a big deal. Yet Jesus establishes without a moment's hesitation that human need, human value, and doing good will always, always trump rigid, lifeless legalism.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start big with the historical context, then we'll move into our main argument, Jesus over religious systems. After that, we'll look closely at the bruised reed, and finally, we'll wrap up with some practical steps for student leaders. Starting off with Section 1, Historical Context and the Sabbath Transformed. To really get the conflict happening here in Matthew 12, we need to understand what the Sabbath was originally designed to be. And this brilliantly illustrates the two opposing theories. God originally instituted the Sabbath as this beautiful divine gift of true rest from the exhausting grind of human labor. It was a gift. But over the centuries, the religious leaders, the Pharisees, they totally changed it. They turned it into a rigid religious restriction. They basically piled on layers and layers of man-made rules, completely transforming a divine gift of grace into just an exhausting performance. They were literally defending the shadow of the law at the total expense of the joyful reality it was supposed to bring.
Moving right along to Section 2, Jesus over religious systems. This brings us straight to the main argument and the absolute core conflict of our text.
So, the Pharisees are accusing Jesus and his followers of breaking the rules just for picking some grain and for healing a man's shriveled hand on the Sabbath. But Jesus, he doesn't back down for a second. Instead, he provides solid supporting evidence straight from the Bible. He points out that David ate consecrated bread when he and his men were starving, and that priests legally have to work in the temple on the Sabbath to perform sacrifices. Jesus masterfully proves that human need takes total priority over ceremonial law. The rules were just never meant to be the ultimate authority.
Which leads us to this magnificent, universe-altering claim. He is Lord of the Sabbath. Guys, this is the absolute crux of the whole matter, rooted entirely in the theology of God's absolute sovereignty. Jesus isn't just tweaking a few minor rules here. He is declaring his supreme, divine authority over the entire system. The Sabbath exists for him, not the other way around. He is the creator of rest. That old religious system was always just a signpost. But Jesus, he is the destination.
Section 3. The bruised reed. Now we're moving from the macro down to the micro to really look at the Savior's heart.
When the Pharisees actually begin plotting to kill him over this authority, Jesus simply withdraws. Matthew then quotes the prophet Isaiah, chapter 42, using these incredible poetic metaphors, a bruised reed and a smoldering wick. These represent people who are barely holding on, spiritually, emotionally, and practically. Think about it. A bruised reed is damaged. It's ready to snap in half. A smoldering wick is a candle that's just about to burn out. So the crucial point is this: Jesus does not crush the damaged or snuff out the fragile.
Jesus handles the weak with a gentle care the Pharisees never learned to show. It's such a stark contrast. The religious system demanded total perfection and completely crushed anyone who failed. But Jesus is the gentle healer. When he finds someone bruised by life, bruised by sin, or honestly even bruised by toxic religion, he doesn't discard them. No, he restores them. He wields absolute sovereign power, but he does it with a deeply, deeply compassionate heart.
Section 4. Steps for student leaders. Let's talk about the practical application for college campuses.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how this deep theology gives us a practical, step-by-step process for your campus ministry. Step 1. Examine your habits. Is your spirituality just a performance? Are you reading the Bible just to check a box or to actually know him? Step 2. Identify the fragile, bruised reeds in your community. Those students who are totally overwhelmed by the high-pressure environment of college and are just barely holding on. And Step 3. Restore gently. Don't go enforcing rigid rules on them. Use the profound gentleness of Jesus to fan that tiny spark back into a flame.
And that brings us to our conclusion.
Encountering Jesus directly. The Pharisees entirely missed the point of the Sabbath because, at the end of the day, they fell in love with a system rather than the God who gave it. Spiritual disciplines are wonderful, for sure, but they are exclusively meant to lead you to Jesus. So what does this all mean for us? I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Are you defending a religious practice at the expense of encountering Jesus? Take some time to evaluate your routines. Let go of that heavy burden of performance, because something far greater is here and He handles us with unmatched grace. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this inspires you to open the Bible and seek Him out today.